Heartbreak strips you bare, not just emotionally, existentially. 1 minute you're part of something, a rhythm, a home, a future. Then it's gone. And what's left? The silence, the echo, the aching space where certainty used to live. But here's what the Stoics knew. What breaks you can also reveal you. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." That's what heartbreak gives you, a chance to meet yourself. Not the version shaped by love, routine, or expectation, but the raw you, the still standing you. Because survival is only the first stage. What comes next is choice. Do you drift in the pain, or do you anchor into purpose? Stoicism isn't about pretending you're unaffected. It's about choosing not to be undone. So what does that choice look like? It begins with ownership. The moment you stop saying, "This happened to me," and start saying, "This is mine to work with." You stop chasing closure. You stop waiting for an apology. You stop feeding the memory that keeps rewinding itself in your mind. You return to the only ground that's real, the present. This breath, this decision. You don't rebuild through force. You rebuild through alignment. You align your actions with your values, your mind with your breath, your goals with your truth. And you begin, quietly. You journal, not to vent, but to sort, to understand, to filter noise from wisdom. You train your body. You rise early. You do hard things, not for revenge, but for restoration. Every walk alone, every meal you make for yourself, every morning you rise without a good morning text is proof. You are capable of self-leadership. This is inner power, not dominance, not control, but discipline earned through pain. And in that quiet discipline, something shifts. You stop craving validation. You stop proving your worth. You stop needing them to see what they lost, because you see what you found. Clarity, focus, peace. You stop asking, "When will I be okay again?" and start living in the okayness that's already present, beneath the ache. You realize healing isn't loud. It's silent, invisible. 1,000 small acts of defiance against despair. The Stoics never said healing would be fast. They just said it would be worth it. You're not here to get back to who you were. You're here to become who you were meant to be, not in spite of the heartbreak, but because of it. They're gone, but the craving isn't. The need to be seen, to be affirmed, to be told, "You mattered." You scroll. You wait. You wonder if they think about you, if they regret it, if they still check your profile like you check theirs. This isn't love, it's validation addiction, and it's one of the hardest chains to break. But the Stoics knew, real confidence doesn't come from being wanted, it comes from self-governance. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." It sounds harsh, but it's freedom, because the second you stop needing others to see your worth, you reclaim it. The Stoic path doesn't reject validation, it simply doesn't depend on it. So what do you do when the silence eats at your worth? You start replacing "do they still care?" with "did I act with honor?" Because the goal isn't to be remembered fondly, the goal is to respect yourself fiercely. And here's the truth. You can't rebuild confidence in the same place you lost it. Their approval won't fix the emptiness. The likes won't last. The attention won't anchor you. What will? Doing what you said you would. Keeping your word when no one's watching. Building habits that don't beg for praise. The Stoics trained in obscurity. They didn't perform strength. They practiced it. You do the same. You lift quietly. You write daily. You rise early, not to impress, but to align. Because confidence isn't loud. It's stable. It's the calm that comes from consistency. And when your confidence returns, not because they came back, but because you came home to yourself, you'll feel it differently. It won't be fragile. It won't need to be seen. It'll just be. And that scares people. The ones who left. The ones who expected you to stay shattered. But you won't explain. You won't post. You won't perform your glow up. You'll simply keep walking, calm, clear, whole, because validation is fleeting, but discipline is forever. You thought you needed them, not just for love, for balance, for grounding, for a sense that everything was okay. And when they left, you didn't just lose a person. You lost your center. But what if that center was never truly yours? What if what you called love was really emotional dependency? The Stoics ask hard questions, not to shame you, but to wake you. Seneca wrote, "A wise man is content with himself. If he is alone, he is enough." That doesn't mean you never need anyone. It means you never collapse without them. Because if your peace depends on their presence, then your power is rented, and they hold the lease. So what does inner stability look like? It looks like this. Waking up and setting your intention before the world speaks. Sitting in your sadness without becoming it. Responding, not reacting. Being gentle with your heart, but firm with your focus. You stop asking, "When will I stop feeling this way?" And start asking, "How can I stand up inside this feeling?" Because the Stoic doesn't resist emotion. They ride it, they name it, they let it pass through without letting it steer. You learn to comfort yourself, to anchor your mind when it spins, to build routines that cradle you when the world doesn't. This is how you become stable, not through perfection, through practice. You realize that the space someone else used to fill can now be used to deepen your self-awareness, that your time, once spent chasing connection, can now be used to build direction. And slowly, the need becomes want. The ache becomes acceptance. The chaos becomes clarity. You begin to trust yourself, not because you have all the answers, but because you've survived enough to know you can face the next question without crumbling. That's what Stoic strength is, not being emotionless, being emotionally sovereign. It's the moment you no longer fear losing people because you've stopped losing yourself. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. One feels like emptiness, the other feels like expansion. In the early days after heartbreak, solitude can feel like a punishment. The silence hurts. The quiet reminds you of what's missing. But here's the Stoic truth. Solitude isn't the absence of love. It's the presence of self. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That retreat. It's not escapism. It's a practice, a decision to sit with yourself long enough to meet the parts of you you've ignored. Because relationships can be noisy, even good ones. And sometimes you lose track of your own voice trying to keep harmony with another. But now, there's space. And space is sacred. Not something to rush to fill. Not something to numb with distractions. Something to explore. So how do Stoics reclaim solitude? They slow down. They strip away the non-essential. They make room for thought. Not to spiral, but to stabilize. You begin to notice simple things. The way the light hits the wall in the morning. The sound of your breath when everything else stops. The tension in your body when an old memory rises and fades. And in those moments, you stop resisting solitude. You welcome it. Because now, you see, this quiet is not your enemy. It's your training ground. It's where you learn to validate yourself, to set boundaries without fear, to love your company before asking anyone else to. You start building a life so rich in stillness that anyone who enters it feels like an addition, not a remedy. That's power, not isolation, not self-protection, but self-ownership. When you master solitude, you stop begging the world to distract you from yourself. You stop fearing nights alone. You start creating mornings that nourish you. You walk, you write, you rest, And slowly, you become someone whose peace cannot be purchased or pulled away. You don't need someone to fill you. You are full. You are quiet. You are steady. And from that place, you begin to attract not what's desperate, but what's aligned. You're healing. You've stopped chasing. You've learned to sit with yourself, to find silence not as punishment, but as power. Now, someone new appears, a spark, a connection, and the question arises, am I ready? The Stoic doesn't answer quickly. They observe, they remember, and most importantly, they don't repeat. Because healing isn't just about feeling better, it's about choosing better. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And relationships, they reveal your thoughts, your patterns, your defaults. So if your past love was built on fear, on rescuing, on proving your worth, this time must be different. Stoicism doesn't tell you not to love. It teaches you how to love without losing yourself. So you ask, does this person bring me peace or just distraction? Do I feel calm in their presence or anxious in their absence? Am I choosing them or clinging to the idea of being chosen? Because emotional repetition is seductive. It feels familiar, but it's often the echo of wounds you haven't fully seen. You pause, you reflect, you build boundaries not to push love away, but to protect the version of you that worked so hard to come back. And if they can't meet you there, you walk away, not with anger, but with alignment. Because now, your love is not reactive, it's intentional. You don't settle for chaos just to feel something. You wait for quiet strength that mirrors your own. And yes, you may walk alone longer. You may face moments of doubt, but you will never again abandon yourself just to be held. This is what Stoics do. They don't break the heart to feel alive. They bring the heart to life by choosing wisely. You don't chase intensity, you choose integrity. And the next time love comes, you meet it from a place of fullness, not need, not hunger, but clarity. This isn't about going back, not to who you were, not to what you lost. It's about what you've built, quietly, steadily, from the ashes. Because Stoicism doesn't just ask, how do I survive this? It asks, what will I become because of this? Seneca said, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. You didn't ask for this heartbreak, but now that it's here, you have a choice to use it, to let it forge something in you that ease never could. And what you've built isn't loud. It's not about showing the world you're doing fine. It's about knowing it deeply. You've built presence. You no longer flee discomfort. You sit in it, learn from it, grow beyond it. Discipline. Your peace no longer depends on people. It depends on practice. Clarity. You see red flags early now, not because you expect betrayal, but because you honor your boundaries. Direction. You've stopped wandering in other people's stories. You're writing your own. This is what becoming unshakable looks like. Not invincible, just steady, stable, centered. It's when love returns, and you don't lose yourself in it. It's when loss arrives, and you don't collapse under it. It's when chaos calls, and you stay silent long enough to choose your next move. Wisely. You now understand that life will test you again. People will come and go. Seasons will shift. But your identity, your peace, your purpose, no longer ride those waves. You are the ground beneath them. That's the gift of heartbreak. It stripped away illusion. It showed you what was real. And most of all, it gave you back to yourself. You are not the break. You are the rebuild. So as this chapter closes, remember, you don't need a perfect ending. You need an honest one. And if this journey helped you find strength in the silence, peace in the process, and purpose in the pain, subscribe. Because this isn't just a story of loss, it's a philosophy of power. And Inner Fort is here to remind you, you were never alone. You were just becoming.